Hi and welcome to my VS Code remote development course. What you can expect from this video. We will handle 4 parts. First of all, we will set up a virtual machine for remote development. Then we will see how VS Code assists us at connecting to a remote server. We will then explore the VS Code Docker extension and how we can use it to develop under Docker, and in the end of this video we will combine what we learned until that point and we will remotely connect to a Docker image with VS Code. You can use the timestamps inside the video to go to your preferred part. This being said, let's get to work. In this lecture we will configure a Linux virtual machine for SSH access. Before, we need to do this before getting a VS Code remote access. And I already have an installed VM for this lecture. If you don't have it, you can simply go to the resources of this lecture and see how you can install a Linux VM. It is very easy. You can do it in 10 minutes. But once this VM is installed, I will start a terminal, but before doing that I will show you an important setting from VirtualBox. So this is my VM and I use this VM for my development and also for the course. But in order for it to be accessible via SSH access, we need to go to its settings and make sure that at network, the network type, the adapter type, it's type bridged adapter. This is the important setting, not an NAT, not the other ones. You need to have this as bridged adapter, and with these settings, with this setting, you will make available this VM to your local network. It will be like another computer from your local network. This is what this setting does. All right, let me close this now and let's focus on this VM. I will start a terminal right here. So first of all, we need to install an OpenSSH server. We can do this with the command sudo apt-get install OpenSSH server. This is the one. All right, I already have it installed, but you need this package in order to run SSH. Now we can simply check the connection by calling SSH localhost to see if this SSH works. And basically this is how it looks. This will show that SSH works on your local machine. And now let's also check the status of our SSH. I can do this with sudo service SSH status. And yes, everything is all right. This means that your SSH is working. If we see this active running, if the SSH service is active, this means that at this point we can connect to this machine from other machines. And the last important setting that we need, or the last important information, is the IP of our VM. For this I can call ifconfig. This is the one. And I will select the one, not the one for I have Docker installed. Maybe you don't have it, so you won't see this. But what is important is this one, the second entry for me. For you it should be the first entry. And we need this inet IP right here. This is the one. This is the IP of this machine on my local network. So I will need this. I will simply copy this text in order for me to connect to this machine. So now I will open a terminal on my host machine, on my Windows machine, and now I can simply call SSH and my user I can see it from my terminal right here. This is my user Alex HD. So I didn't create a new user for SSH access. Usually is a good practice you would create a new user, but this is another topic. I will simply use my host user right here. So my user is Alex HD. This is the one. So I will call right here SSH Alex HD for me, and now I will paste my IP. This is the one. I will provide my password, my user's password. So at this point I'm connected to this VM. I have a terminal, fully working terminal right here through SSH. I can list my files, my documents. I can do everything from a command line interface. Well, in the next lecture we will see how we can launch this kind of functionality from VS Code, and I will be able to view files, to edit files, to do all kinds of operations directly from my local VS Code installation. Let's do this in the next lecture. In this lecture, we will explore the remote development extension from VS Code, and for this I'm using my Windows VS Code, and we will connect to a Linux VM. I'm starting from a new VS Code window right here. I don't have any folder opened. On a regular theme, this would be a purple bar right here. First of all, we need the remote extension. So for this, you can go to extensions and search for remote development. This is the one, the remote development extension, and this is an extension pack. You'll see this currently holds 4 sub or smaller extensions. These are the ones right here, the extension for working with Windows subsystem for Linux, dev containers, Remote SSH, and remote tunnels. For this lecture, I will use the Remote SSH extension, but you can install all of them because we will use them throughout the course. So you need this extension to be installed, and once you have it installed, you will get a button on the lower left part of the screen. I will press this button and I will have multiple options regarding remote connections. I will select connect to host, first of all, the one from Remote SSH. And I will, because I don't have any SSH hosts, I can add a new one or I can configure them. For starting, I will add a new SSH host, and I will simply put right here the SSH command that we used previously with the SSH command and the username and my address. For me, this is the one. I have my username and the address of my VM. And then I will have to select a configuration file. Usually I will select the very first entry in this list right here. So these settings will be saved to a configuration file. I will save this one right here. I will open this config. Alright, and now I'm able to connect to it. I can even give it a cool name right here. Maybe I will say right here, my cool VM, like this, and I will save this file. I will close it, and now I will go again to settings. I will connect to a host, and now I have an entry with my cool VM right here. This will open a new entry right here. I will select this as a Linux connection. I will enter my password for my user. And now I'm connected to my VM. I can simply open a folder right here. So I will open a folder, and I will open the one which I'm currently working on from my work, and from this one I will click OK. And currently I am exploring my files as I would do it directly inside the host VS Code. I have all the files right here, and I can open them, I can edit them, I can do whatever I want. So this is the way we can use this VS Code extension. Many times you will use a terminal inside this VS Code extension, and you will want to do some operations with this. Well, usually you would do your remote host will be a limited resources machine, and from time to time, because even this VS Code connection will take a good part of its memory, you will want to maybe use a swap file if server memory is limited. You can search online how you can use a swap file for Linux, and this way, this technique will help you to take from the available memory from the hard drive of the machine and use it as RAM memory. And this way will help you, this way of doing things will help you run maybe multiple connections or more compute intensive operations on your remote VM. I will close now this connection, and I will open again another VS Code window to show you something. If again from my VS Code window I will go to a remote connections, I can now configure my SSH hosts. I will open this configuration file, and I can add even other options to this configuration. One very important option, or two very important options. are server alive count interval and server alive count max. I will select this server alive count interval and give it a bigger value like 60, and maybe server alive count max I will give it like a 10 or maybe 20. And if I will give this setting to, I will give a bigger value to this setting, then from time to time, even if the remote connection is bad or you have slow speed, VS Code will take itself more time in order to try to reconnect before giving up. These two settings are very important and again will help you while you will do your remote development. In this lecture we will install the Docker extension, we will create a simple Docker file, and then we will see other ways in which VS Code assists us with Docker. This lecture and the next one has two important requirements. First of all, you need to have Docker installed on your system. You can check that with docker -- version inside a terminal. I currently have it installed. And of course, the other important requirement is that you should have at least a very basic Docker knowledge. Well, this being said, we are ready to install our Docker extension. So for this, I will go to extensions and I will search for Docker. This is the extension. It comes directly from Microsoft. This means that it works great and it has great support. I will install it. And as soon as I install it, I will have a new entry right here on the left bar, the Docker view. And this is a very complex view. We will explore it a little inside this lecture. But for the moment, let's create a simple Docker file and see how VS Code assists us with this. For the sake of this lecture, I've created a very basic Node.js server right here. You can do the same with your preferred programming language. Maybe you can write a server with Python. The choice is completely yours. This is a very simple server that just returns a hello from a dump server like this. This is the way my basic application works. What I want to do is to Dockerize it. And for this, I will create a new file. I will call this Docker file. And let's explore and let's see how VS Code assists us at writing Docker files. And as you can see, already we have some content assist for Docker files. It tells us that we should have a from start. So here I'll say from, and I will select node latest for me. You can select whatever you like. As you can see, we even have some dynamic content assist. You know, VS Code goes to the Docker Hub and searches for images. I will select this node latest. All right. Then I will do some basic Docker stuff. Usually I select the work directory. The work directory is usually app. Then I will copy. Our source is current directory and our destination is our app directory. This is basically Docker standard stuff. Then I will run npm install because this is a node package. I will expose the 8080 port because this is what we are exposing inside our server. And then I won't use any port forwarding for this. And then we will simply start our command. And basically I want to call npm start. This is the way I configured it right here in the package JSON. This is some internal node command. This is the one. I want to run this npm start command, which will execute node and my simple JS file. So my starting command is npm and then start like this. I will save this. And now I need to build this Docker file. Well, I can build it from the command line or I can do another way. I can use the Docker extension. And let's see if I will call the command palette, Ctrl+Shift+P, and search for Docker. You can see how many Docker commands we have at our disposal from VS Code. That's great and not so great. And it is not so great because if you are a beginner and you are trying to learn and you are relying too much on VS Code, it's not so good on the learning path. If you just want to get things done, this will be great. So in order for us to know what exactly is Docker doing, I want to build this image. I selected this image right here, and then I will search for Docker images. I want to build this image, and I will give it a name. Cool, I give it like this, and it will be the latest. I will press enter. And while the image is building inside the terminal right here, we can take the time, and this is an important advice that I want to give you, is to always observe when you are calling these Docker commands from the command palette to actually see what Docker is doing. And as you can see, is calling Docker build from our Docker file, like this. Alright, the build is done. I will close this terminal right here. And now if we will go to our Docker view, I will refresh this view. Alright, and now I have my image, my cool image right here. This is the one, this is my cool image, and I can tweak this view right here to maybe get some more information about my image right here. Maybe at the description I can maybe add different information. I am really concerned about the size of my Docker images. This way I see the size right here. Alright. And if I make this a little bigger, you'll see that now I see the size of my Docker images right here, and also with their ID. You can tweak this view as you like. And now if I want to run this image, I can right click and run interactive to get more information. And again, you can observe the command that it took. It called docker run with the port 8080 like this, and now we are seeing the log right here. So this is the way we can basically use this Docker extension. Of course, you can take your time to explore it. We can even see the logs, and we will see in real time the logs that we are getting inside our Docker server. Let's move on into the next lecture and explore the way we can do remote development inside our Docker image. So we will combine what we saw inside this section until now. In this lecture, we will combine what we learned until now, and we will remotely connect to our Docker container. For this, I will go to the command palette and search for this add dev container configuration files. I can simply search for it, dev container configuration files. This is the one. And with this, we will create a JSON file that will configure the way we are connecting remotely. I will select the second option from Docker file because I want to open this or to start from a Docker file. And what this option will do, will create a new dev container.json file in a dedicated VSCode folder, this dev container. Well, there are all kinds of ways in which we can configure this file. What we care about, because we inside our Docker file, inside our Docker option, we are using a port forwarding option. Maybe I give it a more meaningful name right here. I will say right here, cool image, like this. And I will use this option right here to forward the ports because this is the way we configured it before. I will save this file. And now if we have this dev container file JSON, I can go to the command palette and search for the command reopen in container. This is the one from dev containers, reopen in container. And now the great thing about this connection is that I'm developing directly inside my Docker image. This is great for me if I'm learning Docker or if I want to debug something inside my Docker file. Let's see if things are working. And currently, as you can see here, I have a terminal directly inside my Docker file. What can I do? I can start my server. So I'll call npm run start, so or npm start. Alright, and now I can see that my server is running right here at localhost 8080. And if I want to make a request to this, for this I can open a new window in VS Code and try to make an HTTP request. If, for example, from another window I will make an HTTP request to my Docker image, I can send this request. and I'm getting a response right here. And I can even see the logs in real time inside my local terminal from VS Code like this. So this is the way in which I can basically use this VS Code extension to develop inside a Docker image. I can take things even to the next level and maybe even run this as in debug view. If I will go to my launch.json file, if I have right here a debug configuration, I can simply execute my server right here. So here I can say src server.js, and I can debug this just as I would debug a file on my local computer. I will run this launch right here, launch main file. I will run this as in debug view. And now I can even toggle breakpoints right here in my server.file. If I put a breakpoint right here and now if for somewhere else I will make a request, then my breakpoint will be hit directly inside my Docker container. As I said, this is great for debugging Docker problems. Well, we saw in this lecture and in this section how we can remotely connect to our Docker images and debug them and do everything we want. With this lecture, we have finished this section about remote development. Of course, as in the other sections, this is just an introduction to how VS Code greatly assists us. You can take your time and explore all the functionality inside VS Code for remote development. So we have reached the end of this video course. There's nothing left for me to say, only that I thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope and I'm confident that it will help you in your professional life. And also I want to say all the things people say at the end of YouTube videos, like and subscribe and comment and so on, only if you want. If you don't want, don't like, it's your choice. And this being said, thank you very much and have a great day.